there's a dude. And my son goes, hey, mommy, he's already dressed for Halloween. And I was like, what do you mean? He was wearing like sweats and a t-shirt. I was like, what do you mean, bud? He's like, it's a demon. Don't you see him? And I was like, Today, we are reading a super fun story from Reddit as part of my Spiritual Conundrum series, which I do think I'm going to change the title into What in the Woo Woo series. We are continuing this story off of the video on my YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to go check that out, it is posted now when you are seeing this. So if you want to see the other stories that I read that include some really interesting stuff, honestly, please go take a look at that. One is someone's son's past life situation that's happening. Channeling books, which was really fun too, because like they're worried about spoilers and it's great. But right now, we're talking about this one. Okay, diving into our next story here though. This story also is posted on Our Psychic 2 months ago, and it is called Weird Experience. I had a weird experience a few years ago that I think about periodically, and I just want to hear other people's opinions about it. Years ago, normal day, I was heading to get on a train at the station in the city. When I was waiting for the previous riders to exit the train, a man stepped off, a stranger I had never seen before in my life, nor have I seen him since, and he briefly looked at me, like a passing glance. But the biggest chill I've ever experienced in my entire life ran through me, like a full-body emotional response. I felt a primal fear that was completely new to me. I was legit scared, but it was only for like a split second, and then I never saw him again. That feeling has only happened to me maybe twice, and the second time that it happened to me was about 2 years ago when another man randomly approached me at a restaurant and told me I was pretty and kept staring at me and trying to get more information out of me. He was so off-putting that I called my mom and told her to stay on the phone with me as I rushed to the car. He had the largest, darkest eyes I had ever seen, and I could sense he was a little off. The other man at the station had large, dark eyes too, very similar to the second man. Maybe I was just creeped out by their eyes, and I'm untrusting of most men, which I am, but that first experience was so weird, and I think about it every so often. What do y'all think? Intuition or general anxiety and paranoia? Okay, so a couple things with this. I want to address this in kind of two camps, because I think two camps are valid to kind of talk about this. We're going to talk about like the intuitive side first, and then more of the human side second. Intuitively, the first person feels like an actual intuitive hit. The second person does not. The first person feels like OP was getting on a train and saw someone or something that was not necessarily in their highest and best. Now, the fact that this person that they saw, or this creature or being that they saw, moved right on their merry way tells me that probably intuitive, or OP was just being very intuitive, feeling or seeing or sensing the energy of this being and was like, oh my God, don't mess with that. And that was it. And that is fine. That is a wonderful, like, intuitive hit. I would expand upon that. You could grow your psychic abilities much stronger even doing that, and really expand outward from there. However, that is the part of it that I would say is very intuitive, especially because this particular person was not coming at OP. Now, OP could have felt very similar in energy intuitive for sure off of this person that was very much like, not physically assaulting, but like energetically assaulting them in the restaurant, like very much demanding their time, being creepy, being overwhelming. Obviously, that can very much be a thing too. And that energy could feel very similar. That doesn't necessarily mean, to me at least anyway, that those beings would be relatively the same or even have the same soul type energy. What I think is most likely happening in a situation like this is OP is feeling the energy of this one thing that was like, oh my gosh, big, scary. And then the next time something very close to it happened, they had the same kind of alarm bells go up because the experience was so activating and visceral to see the first creature or being. I don't think it was probably a person, or if it was a person, it was someone who had probably some really negative energy attachments to cause that level of visceral fear on an intuitive level, most likely. If we're going on the intuitive side, if OP is really tuning in and actually seeing this from a person, like that very much could be it. Now, the other side of that is OP could also just be really good at understanding body language and people. I think that could be something that is really there. I also would hesitate to say, but must say that like there could be previous experiences that are clouding kind of the judgment or sense of these particular men, which be afraid of men, obviously, I picked the bear, like, for sure. I'm a domestic violence survivor, like, I totally get it. However, it feels like that also could be going on in more of the, like, human side of things, of feeling like, ooh, energy peaked, you looked at me weird, don't like that, have a gut ping, no, no. And then have another person come in and be like, have a gut ping, no, no. That isn't so much on like the psychic abilities, but that's more of like the human intuition, which are kind of separate things. They can kind of overlap, but they're also kind of separate things. Listen to your gut every single freaking time. If that feels weird, if something feels off, it probably is off, especially on that visceral level, or if someone is showing you that icky energy coming your way. Now, as far as what type of beings I think the first being could be and potentially the second being could be, at that point, I think it's most likely some sort of attachment most likely was to that person and robbing that person of stuff. I would have to actually see the person and feel their energy to really speak to what I think the being is, if it was attached. If it was a being that is not a person but was pretending to be a person and therefore gave OP such visceral yuck, I don't know what type it would be. There's a lot of different types of beings out there that can do that and don't do that very often, but definitely could do it, and they would feel off. So I can't be like, oh, it's definitely a this. Like, I'm not going to do that. There's a lot of different beings out there in the universe, between the realms and the different planets and all sorts of different things and layers down in the universe cake that could be potentially coming through and really showing up in this way that would give that visceral response. One time when my son was very, very little, he was like 4, maybe? We were driving down the road, and I was tapped in at this point in time, but I wasn't like openly open as I'm driving to like see all the different stuff. But we're driving down the road, and it was like October, and there's a man walking up the road, and I barely registered, you know, there's a dude. And my son goes, hey, mommy, he's already dressed for Halloween. And I was like, what do you mean? He was wearing like sweats and a t-shirt. I was like, what do you mean, bud? He's like, it's a demon. Don't you see him? And I was like, mm. And I like turned on. I was like, oh, I do now. And it was like this very heavy demon. He was not bad. Not all demons are evil. Like, I don't want to give demons a bad reputation because some of them are really awesome. They are very neutral. They're very neutral, not good, not bad. Like, they have their own morality system. But when I looked at this person, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that is good job, kiddo. Like, you totally just saw through that. I was like, yeah, he's in his costume because he looks scary as heck. And it could be that. It could be that, like, seeing behind the skin, seeing behind the, like, you know, glamour that's occurring over this person, over the person that they ran into on the train. So let's see if OP says anything else or updates here. Okay, top comment. Our body responds the way it does as a warning. I too have felt this way once or twice. Full body pain, discomfort was profound, and the circumstances under which they have occurred were not out of the ordinary. Intuition is a powerful thing. Totally. One other thing I just want to say too is, like, I don't think there's any type of it doesn't feel like there's any type of like profiling component that's happening in here, because it's not like every time I see someone with brown eyes they give me a bad feeling, but that also could be a thing. So just gonna like throw that out there. Like, I don't know, because I don't have all the information, but I hope that's not the case. I don't think it is, but just to put that out there. Next comment. As the first guy didn't prolong contact, he might have just been very aware and saw you clearer than you can see yourself, like masks, personality, etc. He removed them all. Or he was about to do something bad and you caught a beam of his intention, which is also true. You could have also felt it his intention instead of him as like a being. You could have felt something like yucky coming off of him of like what he was going to do. That is also a really good point. The second guy likely made himself comfortable in places of your energy that you didn't intend on sharing with him, i.e. geographically fantasizing about having with you, or at least pushing his intent of that into your field. Also could be true. Like, again, if we're talking about it as sensing intentions, that's also something OP could be doing, is sensing intentions, for sure. But in general, the reasons can be by the other person emitting or radiating some shit, or by you making wrong associations, for example, of something that reminds you of someone else, or just getting rubbed the wrong way, but without any malicious intent on the other side. Or by a weird reactive dynamic between both. Perhaps you have something particularly intensely in common that makes you energetically click, even if the rest doesn't match at all. Which I agree with all of that too. Like, it definitely can do that as well. Maybe it's like a combination of the reactions, for sure. There's one other story that's in the comments that I just saw that OP responded to, so I'm going to read that story as far as another situation of someone else saying, I don't know, I have not looked at this before, so we're going in blind together of what this is going to be.
Trigger warning. The following contains subject matter that may be extremely triggering, involving SA, violent imagery, abuse and alcoholism. If you would like to skip this section, skip ahead to 12 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, it goes, years back, I went on a first date with a man I had met via the personal section of my local community magazine. We initially met for coffee and had a good conversation. He was handsome and charming. We then went on this first date to a diner. We had steak, salad, baked potato, nothing unusual. Danced a while, talked a while. It was a very nice evening, and we planned another date. Got home, undressing for bed, and as I pulled my dress up over my head, I was startled to see deep purple marks on my armpits. Examining further, they were similar marks everywhere on my underarms and around my neck. They looked like terrible purple bruises, as if I had been beaten and choked, but they didn't hurt like bruises would. There was no pain at all. The next day, my doctor sent me to a dermatologist, but I was not allergic to anything, and I had not eaten and had not drinking anything that would have caused an allergic reaction or anything different than I would in usual weeks. So we never found a cause for the bruises, which slowly faded as bruises do. I ended up marrying this man. We were together a month, during which I learned that he was a closet alcoholic, kept swarmy magazines, sorry, I like the word, hidden in towels, and liked to drag me upstairs by the neck if I didn't choose to go to bed at 8 p.m. like he did. Woo! The bruises were a warning. My body sent something that my intuition didn't catch, or a spirit guide poked me or did something to me so that I could notice this. Anyway, I vamoosed from that relationship. Great uses of words! Commenter. Opie said, oh my god, that is so scary. The fact that your body was warning you is mind-blowing, and I'm so sorry you experienced the relationship. It's relieving to hear that you're out of that awful experience. For sure, especially because they didn't hurt, guides would totally do that. Guides would for sure do that. This is a totally different story topic in my opinion. Guides would for sure do that. If it didn't hurt, it didn't cause this commenter any harm at all. It was just like, hey, this is going to happen. Warning, warning, warning. I'm sure there were other things that this commenter's guides did to warn them. I'm 100% sure of that. Not a doubt in my mind. I'm sure that occurred. And I'm very, very glad that this commenter left. Very glad. I think that's really, really important. Yeah. So I do have to say really quick, big thank you to my Intuitive Initiate patrons on Patreon. Y'all are the best. Thank you so very much. I do an additional bonus story after each of these videos over on my Patreon. This week's bonus story is actually really, really cool. It's called Okay, Help a Girl Out, Please. And it's all about synchronicities that this woman is getting via meteors and like mentions of meteors and asteroids. So if you want to get that story time and you want to hear me read that story, please head over to Patreon. It's like the $15 tier and you get all these bonus videos every month. Plus you get a bunch of other perks just on that tier alone. Advanced recordings of my podcast, ahas and pings, and an additional bonus video on top of my YouTube bonus videos. All of the other tiers above that too have even more perks, including like a card pull and a Q&A call a month and a monthly meditation. And like I do a lot of stuff over Patreon, and I'd love for you to come hang out. So if you want to hear about like the synchronicities happening through like asteroids and meteors and like what that means, head over there and you will see this bonus video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love doing this series. It is so much fun for me to do. You guys are awesome. I would love to hear if you've had weird experiences like this. In the comments, let me know. Or if you find something on Reddit and you want me to do this, again, post it in the comments with like a little link to it and I will check it out and see if it's aligned. Thank you guys for being here. Again, like, subscribe, all those things. I will see you on the next video, and don't forget, you are magical as fuck. Bye-bye.